There are many different kinds of horses in Minecraft, from the 35 different color combinations, to the randomized stats like health, speed, and jump strength, and even dead ones that you can ride underwater. Every horse is unique. You hear that, Teddy? You're one of a kind.
Okay.
But today, I'm going to attempt to create the best horse that vanilla Minecraft has ever seen. We'll start with the basic stuff, like maxing out its stats through breeding, and eventually get into the more complicated things, like traveling back in time to give it illegal potion effects. Yeah, this horse is going to be superior to Teddy in every way imaginable. And as if that wasn't enough, at the end of the video, I'm going to demonstrate just how superior my horse is by riding it to the edge of the world, where I'll show off all the cool things that you can do there and maybe get myself killed. Alright, with plans this big, I'm going to break this video up into 4 phases. Phase 1 is all about getting the best possible horses to start our bloodline. And for that, we're going to need some saddles, and one isn't exactly going to cut it. The next step is to actually tame some horses, and I'm going to start with the ones I gathered for the intro of the video. So if I just get some saddles out and some leads, I can get started. And while I'm taming up these first few horses, I just want to explain the plan for By the end of phase 1, the goal is to have 3 horses total. We want one with a lot of health, one that's fast, and one that can jump high. The better these starter horses are, the less time it should take to breed a maxed horse in phase 2. So basically, tame as many horses as possible and keep the best of the best. This one here doesn't have great health, he can't run, and he can't jump to save his life. So we're off to a great start. Moving on to the next one, which is this guy. That's 15 hearts on my second horse. Well, that's 1 out of the 4 collected. I'm just going to tame the rest of the horses in the area, and then I'll show you what I've got at the end. Okay, after going through all of these horses, I found one more that might be useful. This horse felt fast compared to the others, but in order to know for sure, I'm going to need to build something a little more accurate than the speedometer inside my head. That's where this horse speed tester by BjorkMinecraft comes into play. I just need to get the stuff to build it real quick. Alright, that took a while, but we have our horse testing area complete. In addition to the speed tester, I also built some pillars so we can measure the different jump heights. So let's just give it a try. The way this thing works is that it has 2 tripwires at each of the gates. Walking through the first one unlocks the hopper minecart and allows it to take items from the chest, and walking through the second one locks it again. So the less items in the hopper minecart, the faster the horse. This one got 59 items, which is really good. For reference, a maxed out horse would get 55 items, so we're only 4 items slower. To convert this into a blocks per second measurement, I spent 3 hours working on this spreadsheet.
You serious?
So if we enter those 59 items we got from the speed tester, this horse's speed is a little over 13 blocks per second. The fastest a horse can be is 14.23 blocks per second, so again, 13 is really good. But we still need a horse with good jumping, so I'm going to need some more horses. Alright, I tamed up a bunch of horses, and out of those, these 5 were the best. I just need to get them over to the testing area. And now I can go through and figure out what we're actually working with. Testing the speed of this first one, it actually got a score of 59 items, which makes it our new fastest horse. The other 3 I thought were fast were in fact not that fast. So that brings us to this guy here, and this is our best jumper. He can jump 4.5 blocks high, which, when converted, is equal to over 14 feet, beating the world record horse jump by 6 feet. 14 feet also happens to be the average height of a female giraffe. So, not a bad starting place. With the 3 starting horses collected, we should be ready. Okay, before I jump right into breeding the perfect Minecraft horse, I think it would be cool to build a giant barn to organize all of the important ones. That way the hundreds or possibly thousands of horses that aren't worth keeping don't get in my way. Plus, there's a good chance this part is going to take
1 eternity.
And I don't really want the entire video to take place in an empty field. So, to build it, we're going to need some materials. That's the barn fully finished. Next up on the list is a better jump testing area. Using slabs is fine, but we can get a more accurate measurement if we instead use snow layers. And for that, we're going to need to visit an old friend. Okay, so what we have here is a bunch of pillars from 4.5 blocks to 6.5 blocks tall, and that should be accurate enough. From there I worked on the finishing touches, connecting all the pathways, adding some grass and flowers, along with these floating carpets in the doors to stop horses from going in and out, and some fence posts with signs so I don't lose my mind trying to figure out which horses are important. And that's it for the building side of things. For the breeding itself, I'm going to be feeding the horses golden carrots, which I can easily buy from the neighboring villagers.
How long is this going to take?
But to instantly turn a baby horse into an adult, I'm going to need a lot of golden apples. So I've got a bit of gold farming to do. And here's the fun part, where I turn all of these gold nuggets into blocks. So that's all the gold blocks finished, about 3 shulkers worth. And that just leaves us with the villagers. For convenience sake, I went ahead and moved some of them into the barn, including that one I buried earlier. This way I wouldn't have to make trips back and forth. So I now had access to all the apples, and eventually golden carrots, I would need. So it was time to begin. The first thing I want to work on is combining the speed and jump together. The first child was a disappointment. It couldn't jump at all, and it was so slow that it ended up getting a 78. Or in simpler terms, he's useless. Since I can only breed each pair of horses every 5 minutes, I think now's a good time to introduce a 4th horse. If I'm going to dedicate an entire video to getting the best Minecraft horse, it can't just have random colors. So that's where this guy comes in. Now, instead of leaving our health horse sitting here doing nothing, we can work on combining it with the perfect colors. Now, in the case of actually getting a horse that's better than one of the parents, like this one for example, it can jump 4 5/8 of a block and has a speed of 79. What we do is swap this better one in, and if you understand how that works, you understand everything I did for the next 30 hours. As for the horses that aren't good enough, we take those ones behind the barn and leave them in this nice field of flowers next to the ocean. Yeah, believe it or not, not a single horse was killed in the making of this video. Now, I'm obviously not going to walk you through all 30 hours of horse breeding, but there were a few important moments throughout the process that are worth mentioning, like getting this horse here that has the maxed health and colors we want. So after the first 2 hours of breeding, I managed to get a horse with a way better jump of over 5 blocks, and a horse that had a speed test result of 55 items. By the end of day 1, I had put in 5 total hours of breeding, and I already had horses that most people would consider perfect. A movement speed of 14 blocks per second, and a maxed jump of 5 3/8 of a block. But I wanted perfection, down to the last decimal point. What I didn't realize is that it gets exponentially more difficult to get stat increases the better your horses are. Okay, I'm at the 8-hour mark here, and the speed tester I built is starting to show its limitations. A lot of the horses I'm breeding now are getting a score of 55 items, making it pretty much impossible to tell which ones have the best speed. I need a way to measure tenths, hundredths, and even thousandths of a block per second differences if I want to keep progressing. And thanks to the mod mini HUD, I now have a way to do that. Now, if you remember just a minute ago, I said,
It gets exponentially more difficult to get stat increases the better your horses are.
I think it's important to explain why. A baby horse's statistics are calculated by averaging the stats of its parents, which sounds simple enough, but what if I told you that every baby horse actually has 3 parents? Mojang added this third parent to the equation to add some randomness to horse breeding. Thanks to this randomness, we were able to get better horses than the ones we started with. However, this same randomness starts to work against you once you have really good horses.
You're very helpful, aren't you? You try to help everybody.
Because the chances of the randomly generated third parent being as good or better than the original 2 is extremely low. And that's why I was able to just spend 6 hours breeding without getting a single useful horse. Unless you count this guy here, but he's not really going to help at all with this video, even with those underwater talents. I knew I had everything I needed to get a perfect horse. It was just a matter of time. Over the next 8 hours, I bred so many horses that if you threw an egg into the sky, there was a good chance it would land on one. In addition to that discovery, I also managed to get several horses with really high stats, including 3 different ones that were 0.001 blocks away from the max speed, none of which had a good enough jump or health to use. But after one more 3-hour session, the horse that I ended up going with was this one here. Now, his speed isn't perfect, but to put in perspective just how close it is, that 0.011 blocks per second he's missing would only get us to the world border 3 minutes faster. An extra 3 minutes for every 3.75 million blocks traveled. I think this one will do just fine, which means we can finally... Okay, so we've done all the horse breeding and got the perfect horse. Now it's time to get into the cool stuff. Obviously, if we're going for the ultimate horse, it's going to need some diamond armor. And then a good name. Shadow Streak. Not at all assisted by ChatGPT. And if you didn't think this stuff was cool, I don't blame you. But now it's time for the really cool stuff.
Really?
Yes, really.
Really?
Infinite potion effects. And in order to do that, we've got some things to do. The last step before I travel back in time and break the game is to flick this lever here and turn off the chunk loader. The reason I'm doing that is because we're going to be going back to a time before cherry groves existed. And if my storage system happens to be loaded in that older version, it'll end up looking like this. Yeah, not good. But as long as I stick to this area around the barn, everything should be fine. And as for the time traveling itself, I've constructed this time machine to get us there.
Wow.
Don't ask how it works, it just does. Welcome everyone to Snapshot 23W05A. And if you're wondering why I look purple and my day counter is gone, it's because my mods and resource packs won't work here. So what is it about this version that allows us to break the game? I'll explain what this thing does in a minute. Snapshot 23W05A was when Mojang first added infinite potion effects to the game. These effects were intended to be a convenient feature for creative mode. This way you wouldn't have to constantly renew your potion effects while working on your builds. But the thing about snapshots is that they have a lot of bugs. One of these bugs, discovered by Discord user bugs, you can't make this stuff up, made it possible to obtain these infinite effects in a regular survival world. If you're looking for an in-depth explanation of exactly how the bug works, you can check out the link to RaysWorks guide down in the description. But all you really need to know is that higher level potions hide the lower level counterparts. While hidden, these low level effects are actively ticking down in the background. And by timing the potions in a specific way, you're able to trick that lower level potion into entering the negatives. And in Snapshot 23W05A, a negative duration is considered infinite. Thankfully, the machine RaysWorks showed off does all of the timing for us. All I have to do is put the potions in. In the right dispenser, we put 2 high-level potions. I only have 1. Two high levels in this dispenser, and then 1 low level in the bottom one. And now for the only part of this process that I had to figure out myself. How to align the horse so it's the perfect distance from the dispensers. Right there. And if I did everything right, his regeneration should stay forever. Now I can just repeat the same thing with the jump potions. And the way that you can tell if it works is that the color of the particles should be a blend of all of the active effects. The Turtle Master potions are a little different because we obviously don't want to lose 90% of our speed. So to fix that, all we need to do is add an extra slowness potion in the left dispenser to make sure the duration of slowness stays positive. And last up is swiftness. As long as this stays, we should have all 4 illegal potion effects. And based on the results of this speed test,
I'm fast, boy.
I think it's safe to say we now have the best horse that Vanilla Minecraft has ever seen. I think. Now if I just go back to the future, which is technically the present I think, the horse still has all of its effects, and as a bonus, the particles look a lot cooler now with the new potion colors. So now it's time to find out exactly what Shadow Streak is capable of. I already showed off his speed, but if you were wondering what the 47 items translates to, it's 17.063 blocks per second. As for jump, we used to be limited to a height of 5 3/8 of a block. So here's 5.5 blocks, no problem, 5 5/8, and why don't we just skip straight to 6 blocks? And even 6 2/8, which seems to be the new limit. The next test is going to be durability. But I don't feel like putting up with these guys, so... Hey, my storage system still exists. Nice. Alright, so durability. What does that mean? If you remember earlier on, I said, believe it or not, not a single horse was killed in the making of this video. I made sure to word that very carefully. Because Minecraft is a dangerous game, and I want to be sure that if I accidentally hit my horse with an axe,
Oh no!
that he's going to be okay. And don't worry, he basically no longer feels pain. But what if I accidentally rode him into a fire?
What happened?
Yeah, he doesn't care. Or maybe I'm riding along and I just happen to fall 100 blocks.
Oh no, how terrible!
That seems reasonable. Going on relaxing underwater walks, no longer a problem. Perhaps my aim is bad and I hit him with a stray arrow. A stray arrow. If I could actually... Nothing. What about falling into a random lava pool? It hurts.
Oh, really?
But if I give any effort to save him at all, I think he'll live. Let's say I was completely irresponsible. And I wasn't even paying attention. At night. Only 5 hearts of damage from a direct explosion. I think it's safe to say that unless I'm actually trying to get this horse killed, which I would never, he's pretty much invincible. So now that you've seen what Shadow Streak is capable of, I get... Alright, here it is. We're going to the world border. Before I set off, it's kind of important to make sure I've got everything I'm going to need, because I can't exactly just come running back if I forget something. I've already got all the essentials in my ender chests, like food and rockets, but there's also a lot of fun things that you can do at the world border, like making illegal blocks, creating super rare items, and other weird stuff. So what I'm saying is... Okay, that should be everything. This might just look like a bunch of random junk, but you'll see exactly why we need this random junk once we get there. Before beginning my journey to the end of the world, I thought it would be cool to let the members of my Discord server decide which direction I should go. And 80% voted for the north. Do they know something I don't? I'm not sure. But if you want the chance to vote on stuff like this, or you just want a server to hang out in and talk about, lemons? You can join using the link in the description. Even with the fastest possible horse and traveling in the nether, this is still going to take 62 hours, so I'm going to be using an auto clicker to move for me. The rest of this trip should be pretty straightforward. Okay, I've only been AFK for 3 hours, and the replay mod file for this session is storing so much data from all the new chunks that I'm rendering that it will barely load. And I'm afraid that it's not going to be able to handle a longer overnight session. So until we reach the world border, I'm going to have to drop the video quality a bit lower than my usual stuff, because I don't have the 1.5 terabytes to waste on this part. It shouldn't really matter too much though, because these time lapses are sped up so fast that it'll probably look like a blur anyways. There's also the fact that my world file size has increased by 5 gigabytes already, but it's fine for now. Alright, it's been 13 hours total now, and I was thinking it might be cool to check out what the overworld looks like in between AFK sessions. Maybe we'll find something cool looking on the way over. Or everything will look exactly the same. Well, that was pointless. My next stop was at the 22-hour mark, and after a little incident with a couple creepers, I was on the road again. And if you ever wondered what it would look like to travel about 300,000 blocks a second, here it is. I think all this running is starting to tire Shadow Streak out. He's not even moving his legs anymore. Okay, this is it. We've got about 14 hours left to get there. I'm going to leave it running overnight, and we should be there sometime tomorrow. I overshot it a bit. A I'm going to build the portal right at x equals 0 so that it's exactly north. Let me just fix the video quality real quick. And here we go. Now, before we get into the fun stuff, I think it's only fair if I bring Shadow Streak through so that he can see it too. Okay, so why did I bring all of this junk? Some of you have probably seen this trick before, but if you place a block against the border, and then you place a piston, you can actually push 2 blocks together and create some illegal blocks. And if I just... Now we have a little wall of them. But it's not just slabs that work. The possibilities are pretty much endless, and I spent 20 minutes just playing with different combinations. This black and white concrete block was probably my favorite. It was almost like TV static. Here's black concrete encased in glass, soul sand and glass, a fence post in glass, a failed experiment, obsidian in glass, obsidian and black concrete, sand and red sand, leafy glass, honey block and a slime block, a double piston block, and I was planning to stop there, but then this wandering trader showed up and he gave me an idea. So now I have an illegal garden. But I think you get the point with the illegal blocks thing. So let's move on to getting an item that nobody else has. I just need a couple of pigs. And we can leave them here for now, while I work on this. And then I can take one of them and shove them in the hole. Ender pearl outside the world border. Oh, hello. And you might know that you usually can't place anything outside the world border. But if you place the block off of a block that's inside the world border, it actually works. I can place a dispenser here, and a rail off of it. And if I throw some minecarts in and activate it, I can use it to place a minecart outside of the world border. And if I'm careful, I can use it to bring the pig to the other side. But what does this have to do with rare items? Well, I can pretty much guarantee that nobody has ever owned a pork chop that was cooked outside of the world border. Until now. So technically, I just created an item that is one of a kind, and I'll call it the otherworldly cooked pork chop. What am I doing with my life? And for my next trick, music that is out of this world. At this point, I was running out of things to play with, but this explosion was pretty fun. I also tried taming a cat outside of the world border, but it wouldn't let me feed him, so I had to settle for a cat that had once been outside of the world border, and that was good enough for me. I gave him a super dramatic name, vaporized that wandering trader from earlier, created this weird thing, and grabbed a tropical fish as a souvenir. So I've been messing around for over an hour now, and I've got one more thing I want to try before I go home. Yeah, for some reason I thought it would be a good idea to try to fight a wither outside of the world border. Okay, I knew it was a bad idea, but how many people can say that they've done that before? And I thought that as long as I stayed close enough to the border, it would be like any other wither fight. In theory, that should be true, but the combination of the blocks under me constantly blowing up and failing to go around this big hole meant that I was taking damage way too fast. That ender pearl bought me enough time to heal and fly out of there, and I was able to pick a better spot for round 2. So unfortunately, I don't get the bragging rights of killing a wither outside of the world border. But hey, at least I'm not dead. The sad thing about bringing a horse to the world border is that the only way I can get it home is by riding it the whole way back. And as someone who values their time, surely I can't justify spending another 62 hours just to... So, those of you who know anything at all about anything know nothing about this is normal. Yeah, I don't know what kind of bug this was. You'll have to ask bugs, but a simple relog seemed to fix it. It did cost me a few hours, but what's hours for me is often seconds for you, so it's no big deal. In fact, it's so little of a deal that I decided to waste another 4 hours by going the wrong way. Okay.